each and every evaluation that you turned in, everything. And I love it. I like it. I love to get feedback, good, bad, ugly, anything. They're all very nice, you know. But feel free to give me comments about what you would like, because that's how, I mean, I don't make the presentations, but I do the presenting. So I tweak it to what I think would benefit people. That day we talked about budgeting. Many of you said it's a boring subject, but we enjoyed the class. It is boring, it's mundane, it's boring, but I cannot emphasize enough that the 6 classes that we would be doing, there'll be budgeting in each and every. It is the foundation. Some of us know that. We think, okay, we've gotten it right. But you know, have a third party look at it. Perhaps something else would come up, you know, because sometimes we just miss it because we are doing these mundane things. So last time we talked about, okay, make a budget, track your expenses. Some of you got started because I got to talk to some of you. Some of you got started. Somebody showed me a very smart thing. They said, hey, I was thinking I would get a budget planner from a store. It looked pretty nice, actually. I have looked at it. So I just happened to look at it, and this person just took shots of it, and they're going to make their own Excel spreadsheet. How smart. No money spent. And you're more motivated, I guess, when you come up with that. You know, you can have your own formulas for that. So that was very good. You got started. You would, you know, track your expenses, try to budget yourself. The most important part is to be having nothing in red. It should be all black. Okay? And if you have a surplus, great. If you do not have, you're probably getting into debt. And that's what we will be talking about today. Okay? Sometimes I do classes just for the people that I've counseled. So I know, you know, I've seen most of the people. It's like a reunion to me, and I've talked to them about getting out of debt. So I ask, are you guys in debt? And, you know, some will put their hands up and some won't. But I wouldn't do it here. But this is what I do day in, day out, any kind of debt. When we talk about credit, it is not only credit cards. So from the last card, you remember, it's not credit cards. It's anything that you've borrowed. It's money that you and I do not have that we are spending, right? That is a simple concept. I didn't ask my 12-year-old this time, what does credit mean to him? I don't want to broach that. I don't want him to have an idea that he can spend money that he doesn't have. I absolutely would not talk about it. So we are going to talk about debts and how to get out of it, you know. There's certain things that are very simple. We understand that if we have to get out of debt, I always tell people at the end of the class, if I forget, I'm telling you now, the number one thing that when you think about getting out of debt is what? Can somebody tell me when you think about getting out of debt, what should you do, number one thing?
Budget.
Yes, budget. Very good. I passed my last test then. If you came up with budget, number one thing is when you're wanting to get out of debt is stop adding to it. That is number one thing. Okay, I'll start my class on that note. So now I guess everybody knows about Housing and Credit Counseling Incorporated. We are a nonprofit agency. Our main offices are in Topeka, but I'm here located at the United Way building, and this is all the things that we do for the 3 people that weren't there last time. Budgeting and credit, and I wouldn't bore you. Budgeting and credit, you know, basis of everything. Rental issues, that is free counseling over the phone. So if anybody has tenant-landlord issues, tenants or landlords, both, you know, we do it. There are certain, we have a couple of counselors. They call you back. You get on a call log, and that is free to all of you guys. Home ownership, if you're wanting to buy a home, I know everybody looks for a mortgage, but I would suggest that you tell people, if you know who are going to buy a home, to go see a counselor, a financial counselor, not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial advisor, okay? I'm a financial counselor, so I talk about, you know, personal money management skills. And this is what we do when we do home ownership. We talk about your budget, your affordability. We don't look at your gross income. We look at your net income that you'll bring home, and then how much can you afford. We talk about those and the process. Then bankruptcy services. Part of it, we are going to talk about it today, because bankruptcy is another way that people sometimes get out of debt. That is the last option. Then there's mortgage default. If anybody's facing delinquency in their mortgage, we talk about how to get out of it, facilitate between the lender and the homeowners. Reverse mortgages is for people who are 62 and older. They tap the equity in their house and get the money out for any number of reasons. But people who are going to do reverse mortgage have to be counseled by a counselor, you know, who's certified. And education classes, this is a part of it, okay, big part of it. So this is what we did last time. Anybody did anything from here? Any fritter finders, any pocket trackers? Yeah, I brought more pocket trackers, feel free. Okay, pile up on it. And do it different times. Did I mention to you guys that you should try to do it at least 6 months in a year? And I hit on the transition times, you know. Right now it is warm, so I can't say anything, but generally in January we are all bundled up. Come spring, come, you know, March, everybody's wanting to get out, and then, you know, all the flowers come and we buy more clothes and other things. So I tell people March is a good time to do your pocket tracking. Do it in June, summertime. I don't know which way our thinking goes, but we totally think differently and spend differently in summertime also. Back to school. I know a lot of people who are older and have grandkids who are 1,000 miles away, but they're doing back to school shopping. So that's another transition time that we should do. And of course, Christmas time. Okay, so those are the times that you would want to do this. So budgeting is the key, we all understand that. But as you do your budget, if you're falling short, there's this tendency, especially here, that we subsidize it by using credit cards, right? And then slowly, over time, that debt builds up. And sometimes we take our debt and move it to a credit card that is giving us a better interest rate, right? Transferring and rolling over. Over time, it snowballs into big. And that's where, whether you like it or not, you are forced, because now you have maxed out your credit card. So if your limit was 10,000, you're done. Now you cannot charge anymore, but you still have to keep paying for 47 years of your life on that. And that's where, you know, it becomes difficult. I'll give you an example. It's an old one now, about 6 years old. But I had a couple walk into my office, and both professionals, professors, and had 2 kids, you know, general 2 kids, big house, 3 cars, 2 drivers, but 3 cars, in the hopes that, you know, the kid is going to drive in a year or 2. So, and all of those things, and tons of debt. And as they sat down, generally I asked this question. I'm a counselor, right? So I gave all these open questions I asked them. So I said, what brings you here? And the gentleman, you know, he was sitting down, he just got up and said, you know what, I figured out I'll be 103 years old before I pay off all these debts. You know, big thing coming from 2 PhDs at that time. And then, of course, we went on to do other things with that. And that's what we would be talking about. Somebody said, you're giving sometimes extreme examples, but then it sticks in your head. Because what may be, to me, that was extreme. But in my case, even $5 deficit would be extreme because I can't live with it. I just have a hard time. So apply it to yourself. So what happens to unpaid bills? Okay. I have a lot of people, many people, more than 50% people who have come to me with unopened envelopes, okay? And I sit there, open every envelope. I told them, would you open it? No, I'm done with it. I don't want to do anything with it. I said, you know, at least try. If people would listen, I tell them, open the envelopes, look where you stand, how much you owe. You can spit at it, jump on it, burn it, do whatever you feel like it, okay? Nobody's looking. It'll make you feel better. You know, sometimes it's cathartic. I ask people, you want to spit on it? Spit it. It's okay. I got all the information now. But do open it, because the sooner you open it, the better the understanding where you are at that point. And if it sticks in your head that, yeah, I should go get help, then you have more options if you've opened it sooner. The longer it takes, the harder it is, you know. If you stick your head in the sand, when you come up after a long time, you're obviously hurting at that point. So generally, people would ignore the notices. Or I've had people, which is a hard one, make quick choices that make things worse, okay? And it happens to anybody or everybody, and TV shows and news is all full of it, you know, because sometimes I'm working in the kitchen and I hear this where people will talk about, oh, I thought these people were going to help me get out of my debt. They've taken my $2,200, and now everything is in collections or at the court. Yeah, and it does happen. Those are all true. I see people like that. It is very, very difficult. I recently, about four months ago, had to set up a lady who had 12 accounts, including credit cards and medical debts, okay, that she gave to such a company. They have taken $2,800 out of her pocket. Very, very difficult. Now, forget about $2,800. That's lost, and we were trying to recover it. But my point was she had 3 court cases against her. And it took me a long time. to set her all of those 12, 16, 18, because we added more later, on a plan where every creditor will take it back on a plan and she'll pay, and it'll be paid within 4 to 5 years. But it was very difficult. I spent hours after work just trying to help her figure out, because she would be shivering every time she would come. Oh, this one, sent a letter again. And it was part of that. I said, well, how come you got into it? Educated person. She said, they didn't ask me any questions. They made me feel good. Yes, we can take care of it. You just have to write 1 check a month. Okay, those are the scam artists that take your money like that. So, and sometimes people file for bankruptcy where they don't need to. There are certain bankruptcy attorneys who would actually send you back and say, you don't need bankruptcy, you need credit counseling. So that also happens, only about 1 to 2% of the times. But or sometimes people just say, no, I won't file bankruptcy, and they come to us. So what should you do about it? If you have that red in your budget, what are you going to look at? It talks about looking at your finances week to week. It is difficult, it is overwhelming, time consuming, okay, and stressful. So then there's physical, financial, and emotional stress that people go through. I tell them, at least look at it once a month. I suggest to young people, because there are a lot of young people who take their reading to the bathroom, so I tell them, keep it in the bathroom. Keep all those unopened envelopes in the bathroom. I had a couple of students who told me they actually look at it, and they understand what APR is, just from keeping it in the bathroom. So then when I have young parents, busy parents, I tell them, keep it in your car. Because when you're watching the game and there's a timeout or something, you take out that envelope, read it, and see what is happening. And you put it on your list as to where it stands and what kind of help you need. So do analyze it. If not analyze, just look at it, what it is showing to you. Check interest and charges. I will tell you something. There are people who come any number of times, including me, I'm sure, if I were to be not looking at it, is when they bring their credit card statements to me and we are going over it, and earlier I used to be nice. I said, oh, this person is going through a hard time. Let me just read it and I'll put it in my computer and I'll do all that work. I wisened up. I give it to them. I said, help me so that we can, and I do get done faster. So they help me read at it, and it takes them a long time. Where is my account number, just to figure out, because 80% of the times, what people are looking at in a statement? Amount due and date. That's it. So nobody looks at the second and third page that has all that pertinent information, where your interest rate that was promised to you of 9.75 now has gone to 27.75. Okay? And then, oh, when did this go up? And I say, I get goosebumps, but I ask them, I said, you tell me, when did it go up? Because if there is anything that is wrong on the statements, there's only a certain amount of time that you and I have to dispute that, right? After that, we lose our privilege to that. So that is very difficult, and that is another reason that you should be looking at your statements. Make sense? Okay, all right. So check interest rates and charges. Communicate with your creditors if anything is wrong. If you do not agree with, you should communicate with the credit card companies. Do you guys call back, and tell them that this is wrong and all that information? Do you follow up? How do you follow up? This is a smart voice that tells me in writing. You always follow up in writing. You can call, okay? That is one thing. Fine, you call, you get immediate answer, you understand. But sometimes people tell me, I called, this is what they told me. What else could I do? You know what else you can do? You call, you take down all that information, write a letter to the customer service. I spoke to, Sam, Martha, whoever, at this time regarding this, account number this, balance this much, this is my dispute, can you please write back confirming all of this information? Because sometimes you are promised a lower interest rate, they'll fix it, but they never do it. And they know people don't call back or try to get it fixed. So when you write it and you send it with a delivery notification. Because you can tell anybody, I wrote a letter and I sent it. I can type a letter today and I said I mailed it 5 years ago. I can have stains, coffee stains on it, and make it look very original too. But that doesn't, it wouldn't prove anything. You basically want to write that letter and then send it with delivery notification. It'll cost you a pretty penny. But, because it hurts you, you're understanding it too.
How do you do delivery notification when a lot of places have PO boxes?
Somebody has to open that PO box and it's sign.
So It is when I'm talking about delivery notification, I'm not talking about those registered mails or delivery notification where people have to sign for it. Okay? The only thing that you need is a copy of your letter and that it was delivered to that address. That's all. So next time I call this credit card company or collection agency, which I have done and I have tried it, and maybe I should shut the door, but I will tell you my own experience. So when you're done and you tell them, and you call them and tell them, they said, nope, sorry, we didn't receive any letter. I said, no, I did. Why don't you check in your narratives? Because every time somebody talks, they put in narratives. We do too. If you call me or my client, I put a narrative saying this is what happened today. So they'll say, well, there is a note here saying that, client called, but we have nothing else. And I said, no, I did send it, and I'll send you, give me your fax number. I'm going to send you proof of delivery. And that's where they wisen up, And it happened to me. I was just sharing with other people here that I got some credit card company said I owe them $1. No, I paid you everything. And they said, well, sorry, ma'am, we'll take it off. Another, 30 days go, another statement comes, it still has $1 plus one more dollar added to it. I was furious. It made me mad because now it was going to cost me about $2, that I was going to dispute. But again, what I preach, I like to practice too to see how it works. And I did the same thing. I wrote a stinking letter to them. And what I did on that was, I think I was just very upset that they did this to me. How dare they do it after I've called them twice, which should be enough for $1 for such a small thing, but it wasn't enough. So I wrote a letter explaining everything at the bottom. I copied it to Attorney General's office. And within 8 days, I had my $2 returned to me. Actually, it was $1 because they took that $1 off, and I still saved that check. I don't bring it because then, you pick on banks and stuff, so it's not very professional. But the point was, it was only for $1 and makes me mad every time I talk about it, but it makes me feel good that it can work. And you know what? If you don't have proof, whether it is small or big, you can't prove it, an attorney is not going to take your case. How would they, fight for you? You don't have evidence for it. So do it for yourself. It's something simple, and you can save that proof forever on that one. I take time on this because this is very important. I'm not mean, I guess, but I do try some tricky things because I had my very small daughter who was 6 years old and is, 20-something now. I had, we were going to India and she was crying. She said, Mom, can you buy me Archie Digest? I will never buy it ever. So I said, okay, fine. Mommy promised. I said, okay, why don't you write here, Did I tell you guys this story? No, she wrote it, okay? Very cute handwriting, signed her name, and I took it. Put it in my wallet, forgot about it. Then 2 years later, she would say, Mom, this is a new Archie Digest that came. And I quickly remembered what it was. I showed her. She said, uh-oh. So then she grew older. And I thought, okay, that one worked. Because it was power of written word. Motherly love apart, it was the power of written word that I remembered too. And one day my son was saying something like that. He said, I'll make out a contract that I'm not going to play whatever video games and stuff. And I said, okay, write it down. And she was telling him, bro, be careful. And he said, she doesn't remember, but she gets that written letter. So it is that power. This was just playfulness, and we just did it. But, kid always understand, and the kid is 5 times, 10 times, 20 times smarter than I am, but, I had that smartness that I got it in written word. And that will help you later, too. Plus, if you forget, you can, you'll have it in writing for yourself also. Request in writing, no calls at work. If you are being harassed by collectors or anybody for that matter, you can request in writing. Again, if you are telling them over the phone that there's a law protecting you or me as a consumer, that they shouldn't call if I tell them not to call, that's wrong because we have to request in writing, okay? So the number one thing that you would do if a collector is calling you, you get their name. Doesn't matter, operator number is fine with me. And I tell them that I need either a fax number or an office address, which they don't give me. So I said, give me a fax number, So somehow or the other, I tell people, convince them that you get that. Why? Because then you can request in writing. And when you send a fax, you have fax confirmation. When you send a letter, you have a letter confirmation, okay? Those two things needed for it to prove that you did that. Just send something if possible. If you owe money to somebody, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So people who put this on my PowerPoint believe in this. I believe it in only partly because those used to be there. You know, in go-go 90s, nobody cared. There would be, you know, a medical bill and it has never gone to collections, $2, whatever, $20, bill coming to your doorstep for last 10 years. That's fine. If you send, you know, $1 here, $2 there, they thought maybe you'll pay the bill. And those things don't happen anymore. They go to collections in 3 months. So it's up to you. But sometimes I'll tell people if they're going through extreme hardship, that you can send that and write a letter saying, here, this is a, you know, good faith payment, please hold it and keep my account from going to collections. Okay? So sometimes people look at it kindly, but most of the times they don't. Do not give post-dated checks more than 5 days out. If somebody is asking you, sometimes people say, well, I'm at a collection attorney's office, they ask me if I can write a post-dated check. Are you kidding me, an attorney asking you? But they say, I feel trapped, or, you know, wherever, whichever office I'm. I said, tell them you don't have a checkbook on you because you don't want to write it. Actually, it's illegal. They cannot take it for more than 5 days. But do not do it because if you don't have the money, why would you be giving them that post-dated check? Okay, keep documentation. And this is the important one. Attempt to keep the debt with original creditor. Why do you think that? Say it again. Correct. Yes, they'll add the cost if it goes to collection A and then sold to B and C. So then it, you know, they keep adding their own charges and stuff and it balloons. That's number one thing. But when it is with the original creditor, it is easier to negotiate a payment arrangement. Okay, once it goes to collections, anybody ever dealt with collections, whether it's a piddly $20 medical bill or a $2,000 credit card bill, they would want half of it right now and a pound of flesh with it if they could. You know, it's that hard. So it's difficult to negotiate at that point. When it is with the original creditor, that's why, you know, that $100 to a credit card company may just win us over, or on a $25,000 medical bill to a hospital and you say, here is $100, please hold on to it and don't give it to collections and, you know, we'll work out a payment arrangement. That has worked for me with people, so. I take time on this because these are the things that you would want to do, okay? What happens to your bills as they age? This is important too. The medical bills, credit cards, unsecured bank and finance companies. What's common between these three debts? Interest, all debts, good one. They're all unsecured debts, right? They're not secured by a collateral or anything. So if you didn't pay these debts, maybe in 3 to 6 months, first you'll get lots of calls from credit card companies calling you all the time, okay? But there's a time limit between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m., that's all. But that's a lot though. Sometimes people get called 20 times and that's not fair either. So all these unsecured debts, they will be, you know, for 3 to 6 months, depending on your credit history, they will be with the original creditor, then gone to collections. And collections would try to collect on it, okay? And then sometimes, you know, collection companies, so that they have a good reputation, their books look good. If they don't collect it in 3 to 6 months, or sometimes maybe 9 months, they sell it to another collection agency, okay? So the debt keeps moving around. After that, it may go to a collection attorney, and they may take you to the court, right? And then they'll garnish your wages. Nobody can garnish your wages. Understand this, because we get a lot of calls on this. Nobody can garnish your wages without a court order. It's a court order thing that somebody should be able to take money out of your wages, okay? It's a court order thing. Don't let a collection company tell you that they'll garnish your wages tomorrow. It doesn't happen like that without going to court. And if you are going to court, you'll be sent a notice. Remember from last time when we were talking about it? People do not go to jail because of non-payment of debt. There's no, you know, jail like that. But people go to court for being in contempt of court. They go to jail for that, being in contempt of court, because you have not opened all these envelopes we talked about, right? So it's just gone. Or sometimes we move from place to place. But by law, anybody we owe money to is, or anybody we do business with, can send it to the last known address. So if we do not update it, it's our fault. So we could have a warrant on ourselves and we don't know about it. And it has happened. Again, I've had people, you know, run into my office, shut the door, and I don't think I shared it with this group. There I had this young man just come into my room, shut the door. I was worried. I thought, now there's something bad going to happen. So I just stood there. I said, yes. He says, there's a warrant on me. I said, kid, you're in the wrong place. Call your daddy, you know? And, you know, he was in such a bad state that I called the sheriff's office for him, then called his father, okay? I have kids myself. I see kids all the time. So I melted at that one. But I was worried. And then I asked him. He said, yeah, he had not paid, you know, some fine something and had moved many places and didn't realize. So that can happen. This is all unsecured debts we talked about. Now, cars, furniture, homes, all these are secured debts. So you will lose the collateral, right? They come and repossess it. Cars, many a times, you could be in your office and the car is gone. And they call me and say, can they take my car like that? Yes, they can. You signed on it when you did it. 2 non-payments and the car is gone. Okay, so, but one thing is you should remember is to keep talking to these people if you're having problems. They're difficult, they'll be wanting to collect on the money, but please do talk to them. Because they don't know that a 16-digit number or a 5-digit number on a car loan is having problems, right? So they don't know. We need to tell them and say, hey, listen, I'm having problems, you know, what can you do to help? Or I'll get in touch with you in a week, and please do get in touch. So that's what you should be, getting in touch with them. The IRS, I have a story on that one too. There's somebody who came to me, had $22,000 that she owed to the IRS. And I said, have you called them? She said, no, they'll take me to jail. I said, no, they won't take you to jail. Try calling them. And it was, you know, she knew she had this much for like 4 or 5 years. And she called them, and they were going to take $150 from her for a few months and then up it gradually as her income increased. Just for asking. IRS doesn't know that we are having all these problems. So, you know, it's a good idea to communicate with them, okay? But one thing, anything to do with Uncle Sam, okay? They can garnish more than any other unsecured or any other debt. Anything to do with Uncle Sam, 35% of your net income, of your paycheck. Everything else, 25%. They cannot take your whole paycheck and say, you know. So be careful. So government debts, we need to be careful about.
What if you're retired and you get payments from the government? Do they still take that?
I recently came across somebody talking about taking money for some government thing. I don't remember exactly what. They can. There are just a couple of instances where they can take money from the Social Security. I do not remember what. It was something associated with the, what was it? IRS. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Their taxes, back taxes owed.
That or child support.
Yes, child support. Yeah.
Benefit, but anything else, no.
No, yeah. Anything else, no. Yeah.
And it's child support whether the child is 18 or not. If the child has become 18 and aged out, and you still owe child support from the child prior to age 18, they can take that from your disability check or your SSA check.
Yes.
That doesn't change.
Thank you. That's a hard one.
If the minute you get any money, they'll pay you for child
Yeah.
support.
They do. That's a hard one. And they're able to track you too. So how do we get into trouble with credit? Remember, we talked about it's a money you and I don't have and we are spending. It's credit, you know, that is whether it is simple interest. You understand simple interest, right? That is just on the principal. But the compound interest, you know, it's interest on your interest as well, right? So when we have credit card and we carry over balances, then every billing period there's interest assessed on it. Then next billing period comes and there's interest assessed on that interest plus the principal balance we had. And that's how it grows, okay? So, and magnifies on us. So what happens if there are lawsuits? Number one thing, you know, if you get a letter to go to the court, you appear in the court. Generally, first time, it's just simple things. Telling people, you know, that you are to appear, you tell them that, yes, this is your debt, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, if you can dispute and show any evidence, then that's what they do. Till you go in front of the judge. And it happens. You know, it's down to the wires because sometimes I've talked to attorneys, they get mad at me also. They said, no, you don't know this person. This person got abusive to me. I've had a few such conversations so I can talk about it. And they'll say, no, we won't work with this person. And then they go to the court and they're sitting outside and I tell these people, just promise what you can pay. And it gets down to the wire of, you know, a few minutes before, you can still make a payment arrangement. But Fine. Now you've made a payment arrangement. You go in front of the judge and say, okay, fine, we've worked out our own arrangement, and you go. If you make a payment arrangement and either you pay late or you pay partial amount, it can default to judgment, so they can garnish you. Okay, so just be careful about that. Unless you call them ahead and say, okay, I will send this, and they agree to it in writing, then only it will be done.
Working out a payment arrangement, you work it out with the creditor?
With the collection attorney,
Oh,
the person who is pursuing you,
okay.
right? So you work out a payment arrangement. And you know that we talked about a garnishment will come only, it is court ordered. Like evictions. Nobody can evict you. Nobody can just throw you out or lock you out. No, that doesn't happen. It is a court order. So if you don't have court papers, they are just threatening you at that point. I mean, it's serious because you owe money to them. But remember, it is not. And now, you know, they can up to 10% interest is charged on court costs. Hey, you know about fines when people don't pay parking tickets or they don't pay whatever fines, and it goes to collections and it goes to court, and your $10 book, if I may say so, or $10 parking ticket is now $400. Yeah?
If you don't have a lease, or if you're only doing a list month, can they do it like that?
I will answer that later, okay? Let me save it, okay? So you know that $20 can become $400 and you have to pay. You know, students don't get their degrees if they haven't paid their parking fee on K. Okay? So, and then, you know, that's the hard part, so be careful. One thing I missed, when we had a list of secured, unsecured, and all those debts, we were talking about, you know, what happens and it goes to collections and all those things. And what I missed was bad checks. And we often have conversations about that with attorneys. Bad checks can be prosecuted as a criminal offense, okay? So please be careful about that. That's the first one I tell people. If you have bad checks and credit cards, you know, take care of that one.
There was one term you used here, it says no BK. What does BK stand for when it says IRS state?
Oh, bankruptcy.
Oh, BK is for bankruptcy?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And I was going to talk about bankruptcy ahead, so that's an option too. Okay, so and we talked about garnishments, 25% for unsecured debts, right? Where there's no collateral for it. 55% of paycheck for back child support. A couple of you mentioned that. That's a very hard one because, you know, then there's nothing left. Now, all of these have a certain percentage. How about the bottom one? Do you know what we are talking about? 100% of bank accounts?
You can take your money in your whole account.
Yes. So suppose somebody has a garnishment order against me, and they get a garnishment order against my checking account, and I owe them $800, and I have $799 in my bank today. You can take it all. Up to 100% owed. That's a very rough one. So, you know what to do with the checking accounts. So all of us know that when we owe money, what is our responsibility? Yeah, and pay them back. Right? What are our rights? Just like we didn't learn budgeting, we didn't learn that either, okay? But we sort of have an idea, and this is what it is. Fair Credit Billing Act. When they billed me for that extra dollar that I didn't owe to them, that I disputed, was Fair Credit Billing Act. You know, they were billing me, and they were doing it wrong. Nothing that I owed to them, and they had still billed me for it, and I disputed on Fair Credit Billing Act on the basis of that, okay? Fair Credit Reporting Act, what is that? That's when you look at your credit report and you find things that don't belong to you. Have you seen that? There are many times things in error, you may not have lived somewhere and all those things. But again, you know, when you look at a credit report, it's your credit report, it's my credit report, but I've never looked at it. Anybody who doesn't care about me is looking at it every day. Think about it. So, you know, it's a good idea to check it once a year. I do that. Around my birthday, I get a fiscal done and I check my credit report. And, you know, now I'm wise. On my birthday, I check everybody's credit report in my family for me who's an adult, okay? So you could try to do that, but again, it's for disputing anything in your credit report, all right? And Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. This one we all know, you know, how the debt collectors harass us. I've had people who call me and saying, this guy called and said they'll pick up my kids tomorrow from school and take them away. Nobody can take your child away from you. How dare? But here is a stressed mom, and they're telling her that she believes it. Yeah. Okay, it's not fair, but that's the act that protects us. Okay, these are our rights. We all know our responsibility. These are our rights.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You'll probably get to this, but how long, they're real quick to put stuff on your credit report, but to get it off when you write something and ask them to take it off that's paid off or whatever, how long do they have to take it off before you can start bothering them?
No, I'll answer your question first by giving you an example here. People call me and say, hey, I paid my debt, it hasn't fallen off. Nope, it doesn't go into your abyss just because you paid it off. You paid off your debt, now that balance that said $2,006 is zero. It is going to stay for 7 years from the day of the first delinquency when it was sold to the collection agency. And there are ways that collection attorneys and all of them have found to keep it, rolling around. I don't know the legal part of it, but they do that. But you can ask after. When you check your credit report, it'll tell you this debt would, go away in 2018. It'll all be mentioned there. So if it does not, then you can say, hey, this is supposed to go off my credit report, and they will do it for you. But generally 7 years from the last delinquency.
But what if it's not delinquent and it's still showing a zero balance and you close it?
You close it, it just sits there and it says inactive.
Okay.
I think what she's getting at is if there's a mistake on your credit report that you say is not true, how long do they have to get that corrected on the file before you can?
Oh, how long they have? Okay, okay, sorry. So they have 30 days to get back to you and say, received your letter. Remember that threatening letter I say? Right, CC AG, CC BBB, CC everybody, mom mad every day. That's what I do. I tell people, CC everybody on it and see if you get any results, which we do. It's fair. It's my right to let Better Business Bureau know. But yeah, 30 days for them to get back to you, 90 days to tell you one way or the other. And you know what? Collection companies, credit reporting companies have really become very smart. You know what they do? And this I found out at work, that I keep seeing now, frivolous dispute. They will term people's dispute as frivolous dispute. Now again, I am going to prove something on this. Do you see? The onus is on me ultimately for everything. That is why it is important that you save all that evidence. So what options do you have on your debts? If you get into debt, you could go to a credit counseling agency like us. We do what is called a debt management program. So if you have enough money left over in your budget, then we have to match it with how much the credit card companies want. And if you go on a budget and pay through us, then they will reduce your interest rate and make sure most of the times that you get done within 5 years with a payment. Okay, that's a debt management program. Sometimes people can do better. I tell them, you don't need me, you don't need anybody else, just keep at it. And it's like one payment for whatever 5, 6 credit cards that they have. That is one thing.
Sorry, I have
Yeah.
So you're saying you can combine all your credit card
Yes.
bills into one payment?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's actually going to the right places or whatever, as opposed to.
Yes. Yes, it does. Okay, and you feel free to call us, come to us, talk about it. Okay, but these are the. If you hear any of this, just run in the opposite direction. Kills me. I'm falling asleep at 10 o'clock at night, and I see a title loan. All these people who are stressed looking at night and say title loan. Oh, I can give my car title and get $150. I'll be able to pay my bill. Listen, number one thing. Remember we talked about if you're wanting to get out of debt, stop adding to it. When you borrow money to pay back a debt, you're just digging deeper. Okay? So that's what. Anyway, all of these things, payday loans, 360% interest. I have seen almost 100% of my people there I've seen payday, and I cannot bring it to you, right? I see payday loan companies have one sheet, and again, they are the same people. They say, oh, they were so sweet, they didn't ask me any questions, so I got money with them, and I understand they are very welcoming and all that. But it says 360% interest. Right below that is the client's signature when they have borrowed. Right below that. So it's desperation sometimes it's ignorance, sometimes it's just that you don't want to look at it, you avoid it. But any of this thing, all these are scammers basically, wanting your money, make a big buck, and most almost everybody is illegal. Most of these, top ones, credit repair, credit elimination, because of the fee that they charge. There's only $50, up to $50 that is allowed for any credit repair or credit counseling company that they can charge you total on fee. So all these people charge more, and hence, because of that, they're illegal in Kansas. They cannot do business here. So they close. You should go on Kansas, it's Office of State Banking Commission, okay, of Kansas, OSBC of KS, I think. Go to that site. There'll be mortgage lenders, there'll be credit, credit counseling companies, all kinds of financial companies that were closed. You can see if there are complaints against them that they don't have a license to practice here. You'll find a whole list. Before you do any business with anybody, go to the State Banking Commissioner site and check out their record on that, okay? So you could do a debt management program to pay through a credit card company. You can call a credit card company and make payment arrangements with them. Or you can roll over balances and put it in one account and pay your credit card. Different ways of doing it. That's debt management program we call, and it's called the power payment method. So suppose you have 4 credit cards. Sometimes people come and say, can we get on your program? They don't need to, because they have the money, they have the means. I tell them, you do it yourself. All that you need to do, if you have 4 credit cards, the one generally with the smallest balance would get paid off first. So whatever money you were paying to that, you apply that to the next. And it's the power payment method, okay? And you keep paying and try to pay it off. There's a great calculator at bankrate.com. Have you heard of bankrate.com? Yeah, they have great, or you can go to our site, hcci-ks.org, and in the resources, you click on resources, it'll take you to a page that says bankrate.com, our Bankrate calculator, and you can do any kind of calculation. You put how much you owe, what is the interest rate, or how long do you want to take to pay, and it gives you all kinds of scenarios, how long it'll take you to pay. So those are the ways you can pay off your debt. That's doing it yourself. But as a last option, we have bankruptcy. Okay, again, law requires people who are going to file for bankruptcy should go see a credit counselor. It's only since 2006 October that came into being. So we do counseling on that. Same things, everything that I talked about, we talk about at that point. I told you about anywhere from 2 to 5% people actually can pay on their own. Okay, and what happens is sometimes people file for bankruptcy thinking, it gives them that relief, physical, financial, and emotional, all 3, no doubt, because the collection calls stop and all those things stop. So people think they're done, but in a few years they're right back in the same position, because you didn't learn how to, be out of debt. So, but it is an opportunity to get a fresh start. Thank you. So when you do bankruptcy, there are 2 kinds of bankruptcies. Personal bankruptcies, everybody hears about Chapter 11, then tell me Chapter 11, that's a business bankruptcy. But these are, personal bankruptcies, 7 and 13. Anybody know the difference?
Yeah, one of them is similar to debt repayment plan, because you actually still negotiate that you're paying off your creditors, but they suspend all interest, and they usually give
Correct.
allow you to renegotiate what
Yes,
you owe.
yes.
7 is just discharged entirely, unless it's like a non-dischargeable debt.
Yes, and you're right. Did you guys hear? In a Chapter 13, you pay back your debts, okay? And you and I don't, by the way, you and I don't get to decide which kind we'll file, okay? The attorney decides it's called a means test, based on your income, where you live, number of people in your household, your assets, and all those things combined, gives them a number and say, okay, 7 or a 13. That lawfully you can file for. In a Chapter 13, it's called a wage earners plan. People who are earning wages get to file this, okay, and pay back through the bankruptcy trustee's office. So there's amount they pay, but nobody can call them. Once you file bankruptcy, what happens? Number 1 thing? Collection stops. Okay, so and that's a big part. So that's what happens in 13. In 7 also, collection stops, but you can keep, I think, house valued at so much, car valued at so much, but all the other debts, will be discharged. You don't have to pay. People don't understand. You may be done in 3-4 months with a bankruptcy, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, but your case is open. Your file is open for 2 years. So in that 2 years, you're getting tax refund. There's a lady who had like $30,000 in inheritance, and the bankruptcy trustee office took it to satisfy some of those debts. So, but the case stays open 7 gets done, people think we are done. No, it'll stay open from the day you file for 2 years. So all the money that comes your way has to be reported to the trustee's office. Remember that. That is something important people miss.
Does that include wages? Like if somebody goes back?
No, that they have stipulation, yeah. Discharge, things in a 7 or a 13, certain part of your debt gets discharged, you don't have to pay. They cannot pursue with collection on that. Non-dischargeable debts, remember I said, Uncle Sam, anything to do with Uncle Sam? Yeah, you can't do anything. So when I see a student with 150,000 in student loans, nothing is going to happen to that. Okay? There are lots of things happening right now, but nothing has come up. Okay, so what happens in bankruptcy? There's loss of assets. Sometimes people, remember last time I gave you information on a family that lost, both husband and wife lost job. They were, apartment managers. So they sold off their Hummer and their ATV and the boat, okay, and satisfied the debts, okay? So the loss of assets on that. Sometimes people let go of their houses as well. They say, I cannot afford it, let it go, and they let go of it. Impact on credit history is big. If you are young, or, you are going to get a job, move to another apartment, try to buy a house or a car, it is going to impact your credit negatively, okay? At least for first 2 years, it is going to be hard to get anything. Unless, if somebody tells you, hey, you just filed for bankruptcy, yeah, come on, I'll give you this, come on, I'll give you that, means you're going to be scammed on that one. They're going to, it'll cost you a pretty penny. You'll be right back. I had a lady, single mother, didn't understand. She had 15 payday loans after her Chapter 7. I don't know how she came to my office, but I remember her very well. And it was very difficult. Nothing can be done. She had just filed for bankruptcy. And now, also, people sometimes have all these debts. They remember they have all these statements, and they didn't look at their credit report, or they missed a debt. Now, 15 debts that you found and you filed for, fine. The 16th one you didn't is going to come and collect on it because no protection. You didn't put that into your bankruptcy. Okay? Of course, all these things happen. Bankruptcy is a public record. It goes in the newspaper, and anybody can look it up. Employment. Everybody looks at our credit report, so they know. So that's why I tell people, please be honest on your applications. If it asks you, if you file for bankruptcy, please let them know, yes, you did. Because they look at your credit report anyway, and they know. So it just messes up things on that. Availability of services. You could perhaps get a cell phone, but if I can have, $120 bill, you'll probably have, $240 that you'll be paying every month. And a mandatory deposit, same goes with rentals and stuff. So you just have a higher cost of doing services at that point. Same thing. So now what would you do in 2 years? Any lender, when you go do business, any lender is looking at last 2 years of your credit history. They can see 7 years on my credit report. They can probably see 15 years on my credit report. But they consider last 2 years most as to how I have conducted my business. And so it'll take you about 2 years to rebuild your credit. Okay? And those are the kind of things that we talk about when we counsel people. There's a pre-bankruptcy requirement for counseling. There's a post-bankruptcy requirement that is done in a classroom setting like this. And we talk about those aspects of it. Okay? It'll take you about 2 years. You could use, you know what a secured credit card is? Yeah? Yeah, put your own money, and that'll be your credit limit. So, but make sure that if you get a secured credit card, that the bank is reporting it to the credit agencies. Because if it is not being reported, there are people who buy cars, and they tell me they have a car payment. I see in their budget. I said, but it's not on your credit report. And they said, no, but those people promised me. It's not on your credit report. It's not helping you. Okay? So those are big things that should be on your credit report. Anyway, once you file for bankruptcy, there's lots of red flags that goes in your credit report. So the predatory lenders definitely are preying on those people. The lady that I talked to you about, no exaggeration, 15 payday loans, was, she got into it just because there was lots of phone calls to her and coming, get this money, nothing, no questions asked, and that kind of stuff, and she fell into that. So there'll be a lot of predatory lenders that would be selling you things that would be hurting you. And you know this, right? Everybody looks at your credit report except you yourself. So if you're going to buy, you're going for tenancy or you're going to be a homeowner, they're looking at it. Loans, all types of loans, any types of secured, unsecured, anything. Insurance, okay? This is a good one. I like this, that car insurance can be cheaper with a high credit score. That is true. So if you have low credit, fine. But when you have good credit, go get yourself a good, insurance premium. All right? It is very important. You know what? Why is it that I'm trying to take care of myself and try to think of every possible way to help when I'm in trouble? Why am I not looking at things when I'm having a good time as well? Because this is one of the things, car insurance. You should be looking at it and, get a good premium on that. Utilities, including water and cell phones, they also look at your credit report. Employers do. That is a big one. And I tell people, especially young people, when they're getting ready to graduate, come check your credit reports and figure out what to do. So if you have no credit history, I have lots of examples of people who use only cash. And no bank wants to touch them when they go out for loan. I had a gentleman, long time ago, I used to work as a credit counselor, and he had thousands of dollars in savings. He was a widower and he had a house and everything. He had only one son. One son got into an accident and was disabled for life. So obviously he lost his job and all that. So father decided to fix his own house, make it accessible. So he wanted money. He said, I'm going to leave the $80,000 cash for my son, but I want money to fix it, okay? And I can pay it off with my whatever income comes, investment money comes. No bank would give him money. Why? He had no credit history. The man had never, he had bought everything for cash always. So, he was born in 20s already, then I had to I literally called 5, 6 of the local banks, and one gentleman said, okay, fine, we use the cash money as a collateral, and that's how he got it. But nobody wanted to give it to him. He was worth, thousands of dollars. Nobody wanted to touch him simply because he didn't have credit history. I think this is the only country in the world where we are so important. We may have that 30,000 debt, but good, because we have paid on time and done all of that, that we will get credit, but the others won't. Anyway, so you can, piggyback with somebody who has good credit history, get on there, or you can do the secured credit card. You can do that too, or you can do a loan. You can do a small loan. I tell people, and local and small banks and credit unions do that. They'll take $600 from you, your money, put it in an account, and say that they are loaning it to you. And every month, take $50 from there as a payment. So in a year, you get good credit history on that. Okay, it's sort of trying to trick the system. I'm sure the credit card, other people will come with something else. And it talks about similar things. They're all looking at your payment history, basically. I want to come to another, we've talked about this, but you guys know that you go to annual, don't Google free credit report, please. I cannot tell you enough times, because you Google free credit report, it's a misnomer. They charge you for it, okay? Unless you cancel within certain days, which doesn't happen. So go to annualcreditreport.com. It'll take you to TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, okay? And you say, yes, I want my free credit report. No thank you to the score, because they'll charge you for that. If you want to shell out that, whatever, $7, $8, go ahead, check on that, okay? But you get your credit report free. If everything looks good, you'll have good score. If it doesn't look good, you'll have bad score. Why are you obsessed about the score? It's the lender who has to be obsessed about our score. Because they assess us by that 3-digit, not ourselves. We know what we are doing, okay? But it's annualcreditreport.com. You should have this information in here. So have you heard of FICO? Who's heard of FICO? What does it stand for? FICO stands for Fair Isaac Company. They are the first one that came up with the scoring, okay? So I know I hear Susie Orman talking about FICO scoring, how people who are going to get married should, check that along with their blood for whatever else. So, and sometimes it makes sense, because you get married all gung-ho, and then the fights start about, your money, your credit, and, my credit, that kind of stuff. But this is important. I wanted to come to this slide because I've talked to you about lots of other things here. 35% of your credit score, that 3-digit number, closer to 800 it is, the better your credit score. So between 760 and 850 is what you should shoot for. 35% paying on time. So if you said, who cares, I can just pay late, it doesn't matter, whatever, you may be okay with the $35 charge, but it dings you big time. The higher your credit score, the greater the fall. with just one late payment. And if it's a home payment or a car payment, a secured one, it's even worse. So 35% payment on time that you and I can control. 30% is amount owed, how much you owe. So, and that pertains to the fact that suppose I have a 30,000 credit limit on a credit card, and I have used up 15,000. So that's 50% of my credit usage, right? It is going to ding me because up to 30% usage comes up with a good score. Beyond that, it's not good score for us.
Isn't it better to tell them how much you want versus them giving you how much they want?
It's up to you. It's your personality. I will.
Increase your credit rating, because that's what I've done. JCPenney's want to give you more and more and more. I said, no, $1,000, no more.
Oh, it's okay. You can. I really would like 100,000 credit limit. I really think. Yeah. I'm not spending.
Credit, they take that as a debt owed because it's an unsecured credit.
No, but only if I've used it. Up to 30% usage is okay. On your credit report, you will see it says profile summary. There, it should say credit available 70% or greater. That's all I'm telling you, okay? So you should use only 30%. When students have those small credit cards, I tell them you're going to charge 2 plane tickets, do it on 2 different cards so that you're using only 30% of that. And that's what it is, that 30% amounts owed. Keep 70% available credit. Just remember that, or just use 30%, whichever way you understand better, okay? So they don't care how much credit limit, it's the usage that they're obsessed about.
Does that rule apply whether you're paying it off at the end of every month or not?
One billing cycle, it doesn't make much difference at all, no. Okay, but I still try to keep it to 30%, I will tell you, because I never know how they change it. The length of credit history is 15%, how long you've had it. If you're 18, obviously you haven't had it for long, so it'll hurt you. But as you grow older, it'll help you. New credit, they like to see new credit and types of credit used. So if I have a house, car, student loan, any other loan, used, paid one car off, bought another car, all these things, they like it, they think it's healthy in here. It may be harming me, but it's healthy in here and gives me a good credit score. I gave you an example of a couple last time where the man had not used any credit, just cash, had very poor credit score of 495, and the lady had a 780 credit score. She had $31,000 in credit card debts. But she had, moved around her debts and, played on this 30 and 35% of it, paying on time. But it catches up with us later. So the higher your score, the better terms that you get. And I'll give you an example. When I bought my house, my friend bought a house, both our husbands, professors, similar things, most of all variables same for us. She had 2 points higher interest rate than me. I didn't need my friend to tell me anything. I knew that later I found out that they had a lot of credit card debts. And that's how, their score was lower. So they got a higher, they were higher risk. When the score is lower, you're a higher risk. So I'm wanting to cover myself, getting more money out of you sooner, right? So if a higher interest means a big chunk of money coming to me. These are just talking about, if you should try to save up. Remember we talked about if you are in debt. Number one thing, stop adding to it. Yes. I cannot emphasize that. And number two thing, how you pay your debt? If you are rolling over balances, you're just moving the debt from my room to my friend's room. No difference. Debt is the same. Okay? So now you will reduce your expenses, increase your income, and then come up with resources to pay down a debt. When you go on a debt management program, whether through a credit counseling agency or on your own, this is all that you're doing. You're coming up with resources to pay that down. Okay? That is very, very important. And if your credit score is good, you can negotiate better terms for yourself anywhere. All right? So remember those things. You can have credit card debts, but you can pay it down yourself if you use the power payment method on that. All right?